Hi folks, today I'm going to give you my thoughts on Gears Tactics and answer the question, would I recommend it? Gears Tactics is a turn-based tactical squad game a lot like the XCOM series, but of course set in the Gears of War universe. Would I recommend it? Yeah, actually I would. I had a whole lot of fun playing this game and I really enjoyed it. But I would say, try and play it on the Microsoft Game Pass service if you can. You'll save a ton of money, but I'll discuss that a little bit more later on. Also, if you are new to Gears Tactics or interested in it, then check out my top 10 tips video for it, linked down below. Tactics is set before the other Gears of War games, just as the Locust turn up. You of course play as the Gears, a squad of elite soldiers tasked with dealing with this new menace. Of course the game has a lot of synergy with the other Gears of War games. You'll find the same standard Locust enemies, the same big ridiculous bosses thrown in here, and it's all mixed up into this turn-based tactical squad game that clearly does borrow a lot from the XCOM series. However, what it does pretty well. You'll be running around on missions, sliding into cover, setting snipers up to shoot down alleyways, putting people onto Overwatch to cover a corner as enemies come screaming around it. For each mission, you'll get to pick your own squad that you want to take in. You can choose from different classes with different skills, different weapon loadouts, different armor, and all of that you can modify and customize yourself. As a first foray into this style of game in the Gears series, I think the developers have pulled it off and done a really good job. But let me tell you about some of the things that I did and didn't like. Okay, let's start on the good side, the things that I did like. This game is simple to get into and it's fun to play. Don't forget, this game is going to try and appeal to Gears of War players who don't normally play turn-based strategy games. So they've made it fairly forgiving to get into. That is playing on normal difficulty. There are 2 extra difficulty levels above that, and the insane one is literally insane and frustrating and horrible, and I would probably not recommend many people try it, but it's certainly a challenge. But at standard difficulty level, I think they've pitched it just about right, especially if people aren't familiar with these style of games. Also, I think the developers have done a really good job balancing the game mechanics. Things like the accuracy, the movement, the cover system. It all seems to work really well from my experience, and I have played through and finished the game. Also, all the mechanics that the player can use, the AI can use too. So you might find your tactics being used against you at some point. And the AI, whilst they are sometimes blatantly stupid, walking into their own proximity mines and stuff, they do generally a very good job of setting up on Overwatch and keeping some of your guys pinned down. I also think all the weapons have been implemented really well, and everything from the chainsaw-equipped lancers to the precision sniper rifles to the heavy weapon mulchers all feel so satisfying to use, especially when you get each character skilled up and geared up. In fact, that's another thing that I really like. Your squad of characters really do feel like they become a powerful squad of heroes the more you develop them. The abilities that you can chain together, the powerful combos, and the excellent weapon upgrades that you can get, you really do feel like you can mince through waves of enemies. And sometimes you might be in a situation that looks utterly desperate, that you have no chance of winning. And just with a little bit of luck on your side, because there is RNG dice rolls in this over whether you hit, just a little bit of luck and the right combination of skills, you can pull off some fantastic comebacks, and then the game and you feel utterly epic. Remember, this is a Gears game. It's about feeling like you are playing the super soldiers, the heroes. Few things feel better than either unloading an entire Mulcher's magazine into some big tough enemy, or charging across the battlefield, leaping over a crate and chainsawing some guy hiding behind it. Which brings me on to some of the video in Tactics, the special effects and close-ups and the animations when you pull off an execute. For example, the gore splatter on the screen. It looks great, but not only just the bits in-game, the cutscenes and the voice acting in the between mission bits are, as you probably would expect from a Gears game, absolutely superb. In fact, you might recognise the voice of Gabe, as it's voiced by the same actor who plays Charles in Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah, the main characters have some great sayings and some great voice acting. I was really impressed with that. It did remind me of Gears 5, and that was one of the few things I actually liked about that game. Also, another thing that I liked was that the characters are completely customizable. Yeah, you can change the color of their armor and weapons, but that's not just the thing. You can change their skill loadouts, you can reset their skills, and there's various skills you can pick from. You level up as you hopefully survive the missions, but you never have enough points to pick all the skills, which is a good thing because it means you have to choose how you want to tailor that particular character for the role they're going to play in the squad. And it also means you can play through again another time and pick some completely different skills and try out different builds that you haven't before, or you can just reset the character skills with tokens whilst you're playing through the game. The game, however, isn't perfect, so let's get on to the bad stuff, the bits that I didn't really like. And talking about customizing characters, let's start there, and it's the inventory management. I found this an utter pain in the arse. At first, after the few early missions, it doesn't seem so bad. As you complete a mission, you get a few armor mods or a few weapon mods. And as you go into the inventory, you've only got a few heroes and maybe a couple of troopers in there. And they are lit up with a little red tag that displays whether they're carrying a weapon or some armor that can be upgraded by the things you've picked up. Then it's simple. Fast forward a dozen missions and you've got a big roster full of extra soldiers. When you're doing a side mission, if you've got several side missions in between a story, you can't use the same characters in each side mission. And what happens, they complete a side mission, they get the loot, you go back to the roster, and they are travelling back, so they can't be equipped with the new loot, even though technically they're the ones carrying it. You can equip the other guys in the barracks with that loot. But what if there's a particular mod and you think, I really want that on the guy I just took into my mission? Well, you can't do that until you've completed all the side missions for that particular section of the game and moved on to the next story mission, by which point you've picked up a load of extra mods and it gets confusing over who has what and who wants what and where you plan to do things. And as you're flicking through the weapons mods on the weapons and the armor and stuff, suddenly all those red tags disappear and you can't remember what you picked up and you don't know who to go and look on to see, and it's just a bloody nightmare. And I found that to be a confusing mess, and you end up spending a lot more time going through each individual bit of kit than you really want to. So I really didn't like that. I feel like they could have done that a lot better. Now, another slightly negative point I want to raise is the story. It's not that the story's bad, it's just that I couldn't actually tell you what exactly the story was at this point, and I finished the game and I had a lot of fun with it. Now, that's not to say that it's a bad story, but if a story is forgettable, then it's perhaps not fulfilling its role. I will say, however, that it doesn't really matter, because, yeah, I just went into it looking at each mission, what I had to do. Did I have stuff to blow up and chainsaw and kill? Yes, I did, and that was absolutely fine, and that was enough for me. But for those of you wanting a real tightly put together story, it is there, but it's you really have to pay attention to it, otherwise it's easy to forget amongst all the side missions and stuff that you do. And speaking of those side missions, they are unfortunately repeated quite a lot. It's not just that you'll see some of the maps repeated, although maybe spun round from a different angle. The further you go through the game, the more you think, I've been here before. It's just that some of the actual missions are repeated over and over again as side missions. Things like take and hold 2 supply points and go and capture or rescue the prisoners. You'll do an awful lot of those, and a little bit more variety would have been good. They do start to grate a bit, although the way the enemies deploy on them and the amount and type and number of enemies are different. Well, I would have liked to see more variety, put it that way, rather than the same ones repeated. But they are still fun to play. Now, if you've seen any footage of the boss fights, these things look like huge, great, big, monstrous entities that should be incredibly difficult to take down. The reality is, and this bears a lot of resemblance to Gears 5 when I played through that, the boss fights, or the bosses themselves, are entirely predictable in their attacks and their maneuvers. And once you figure out the pattern and see what they do and how they react, they are incredibly easy to avoid taking any damage from, and quite simple to take down. Although they tend to be very long drawn out affairs where each boss is only vulnerable in a certain position or at a certain time. So they're not quick fights by any means or any stretch of the imagination, but they do drag on a little bit because they're very repeatable, they're very repetitive, they're very predictable. And if you've played Gears games before, you'll probably know exactly what I mean. The danger in the boss fights actually comes from the ads and the locust and all the extra little enemy troops that come scurrying in. They're the problem, not the bosses themselves, and I don't know if that's the right balance to strike in a game. I suppose if you look at the encounter as a whole, some of them are challenging, but the bosses, although they look amazing, yeah, they're kind of a wet squib. So overall, those were pretty much everything I can think of bad to say about the game. And I will say, I had a whole lot of fun playing this. I really enjoyed it. And strangely, I found myself wanting to continue playing after the main story had finished. Yes, you can go on, carrying on doing more missions to level up your squad and gear up, which begs the question, do they plan on releasing DLC or expansions for this? If there's a sequel, will you be able to import your fully leveled up squad from here into the second game? I have no idea, but there looks like there's scope for that sort of thing if the developers wanted to. So I did enjoy it, but I do need to mention the price. At $49.99, I would consider this a bit expensive because the main campaign isn't really all that long. I should also point out that I didn't pay that for it. I was given this key from Microsoft for free so I could bring you guys a review of it and some gameplay. However, there's a much cheaper way of playing this, and I would highly recommend you do this. If you become a member of Microsoft's Game Pass for PC, or I guess Game Pass for Xbox as well, subscription service, that's a whole lot cheaper. If you're a brand new member to this on the PC, it costs only £1 a month or $1 a month depending on where you are. You'll easily get through Gears Tactics within a month, I would say. And there's also over 100 other games available on Game Pass. Some excellent ones like Red Dead 2 currently and Kingdom Come Deliverance. Either that or wait for a sale, because I do think that at 50 quid, that's a little bit steep for the length of the game. But I did really enjoy it, and I know people are going to compare it to XCOM, and people are going to ask, well, is XCOM better or is Gears better? And I don't know, because I haven't played the recent XCOM games, but I will say it doesn't matter which is better. We are allowed to have more than one good game in any one genre, thankfully. So just play whichever one you like the look of. This, from what I've heard, is probably simpler than the XCOM series. But it depends whether you want that or you want some more hardcore challenge. I don't know, but I really enjoyed this and I would rate it a solid 8 out of 10. And I will look forward to hopefully seeing more in the Tactics series. Now, don't forget to go and take a look at my 10 essential tips for Gears Tactics video. Links on the screen and down below. Or you can watch my entire playthrough of it on my second channel. Thanks, folks. Let me know what you think and I'll catch you next time.